Well, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Crash. Today, we are going to be covering identity and the effects it has when you put your identity into just one thing. So, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I have an operation coming up. This operation, I am a little bit worried about, I am a bit nervous about. I've been waiting 3-4 years for this operation. So, basically, a long time ago, I separate my ankle from my foot. I tore the ligaments or the tendons from my foot on the right ankle. Where I've used the left ankle more, and I've overcompensated using the left ankle more, I've got a reconstruction of the ankle. So your ligament sits in a groove, and I've worn the groove completely down. So my ligament keeps bouncing out of the groove, causing my foot to seize up, to lock up completely. The ligament keeps catching onto floating bone that's in my ankle. So what they're going to do, they're going to deepen the groove, remove all the floating bone, and then they're going to put like an elastic band to stop the ligaments as such from seizing. So I am very worried about this operation, just because obviously I'm a very active person, and because of this operation, I'm not going to be that active. So I do have that fear in the back of my mind that what if I go back down this dark path? What if I lose who I am? What if I undo all the progress I've done? And then I also realized that it's going to be completely different because I'm in such a better headspace than when I first did my ankle, when I first had the serious operation, when I first got put into this position. I'm in a different headspace because when I first did it, I was playing rugby. Rugby was my whole life. Rugby was everything. I used to train about 3-4 times a week. I used to have a match. So overall, I was doing about 5 times of rugby. Then I was doing things outside, like passing a rugby ball. I would be surrounded by rugby. I'd be watching rugby constantly. My whole life, my whole identity was rugby. And obviously with rugby culture, there is some bad sides, the drink is very heavy in rugby culture. And any of you who play sports, you would think that, oh yeah, the drink is a natural thing, But especially in rugby, I can remember playing rugby since I was 8 years old, I think it was, 9 years old. And drinking games was encouraged then. Obviously, we wasn't drinking with alcohol. We was drinking with squash or lemonade or wherever. But I can remember my first official drinking game at the age of 12, 13 in a rugby club with a responsible adult. And I can remember it really well. And obviously I know this was controlled drinking, but it was embedded in me from such a young age that drinking is acceptable. Drinking large amounts is acceptable. Taking part in the drinking games is kind of a requirement in the rugby. Because if you didn't, you used to get a lot of backlash. A lot of people used to judge you for it. And this was something where I think I ended up being an alcoholic after my first injury. Because during my first injury, I wasn't meant to be playing. It happened out in Canada. I was playing for a Canadian team. And I can remember it well. I can remember the day very well. It was a cup final. The team I was playing for, they hadn't won a cup final in over 20 years. And I made a tackle. It was a try-saving tackle, bear in mind. I heard a crunch, got up, jackled the ball, carried on running a little bit with it. And then I presented the ball. Our team picked it up because there was a turnover. Their line of defense was all over the place. Our team picked up the ball and run, scored a try. I tried to get up from this ruck, but I couldn't. I couldn't get up. My ankle just wouldn't grip is the best way of putting it. So I was bad. So I had to force myself up by using my knuckles and hopping on one leg. And then I was like, yeah, that's me done. So I walked off the pitch and I was like, if I sit down on the grass, I'm not getting back up. So I walked up to the changing room, and at this point, I still had all the adrenaline from the rugby, from the injury. And then I did the silly thing. I took my boot off. And oh my God, my foot swelled like a balloon. You couldn't see my toes anymore because of how much it swelled. So they rushed me to the Canadian hospital. And yeah, I had all the x-rays and everything. And I found out I'd separated my ankle from my foot. I tore all the ligaments, all the tendons. My ankle was clean off my foot. And they wanted to operate out there, but obviously my mum didn't want me to get operated out there. So they broke my foot and put me into a temporary cast. And then they gave me some good crutches and stuff so that I was able to land and have support. And then I rushed to the hospital. The first hospital I went to Newport, the Gwent Hospital. And they was more concerned about the type of crutches I was using than my actual foot. And I remember it really well that the other hospital was like, yeah, you need to put a screw in, you need to like have a reconstruction in your ankle, you need to get your ankle sorted ASAP. The longer you leave it, the worse it's going to be. And I went to Gwent and they was like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with your foot. We're just more concerned about the type of crutches you're using because it's the traditional American ones, the ones that go under your armpit. And I was like, well, how come out in Canada they're saying I need this serious operation and you're saying there's nothing wrong? So then we went up to up to Neville Hall, sorry. And Neville Hall rushed me for an emergency operation there and then. I literally walked through the door. We had one x-ray and they was like, you need to have an operation now. So I can remember I went down, had the operation, day before my birthday it was. And they put a screw into my foot to hold my foot together because of how messed up my ankle had come from my foot. And the operation was a success. It was brilliant. The only downside was I ended up having something called CRPS, which means that your nerves are oversensitive in your foot. So anytime someone would touch it, it would be like my foot was on fire. So I had to have so much like steroids and stuff pumped into my foot. I had to have this chili cream to kill the nerves off my foot. So my foot, I haven't got the nerves there as I used to. They've still never fully healed. And every day I'm in constant pain, but it's not as bad as it was. So this went on for a few months, and it's really annoying because obviously I wasn't active, I wasn't able to do anything. And basically, I had uni. I was starting uni in September. So bear in mind, this happened in August. I had the operation on my birthday, August the 27th, or the day before my birthday, recovery, whatever. And then in September, I was starting uni. So we turned up to uni and got told that I was on the second floor. There was no lift in the building, right? So I had to hop up and down the stairs constantly. Obviously, in this process, bear in mind, I became an alcoholic because all I used to do was drink. So this happened to me. And I was just miserable. So all I want to do was just get out of the house and I'd go down the rugby club. I'd be slamming the pints into me. And that's literally all I used to do. I used to turn up to training just to drink. And yeah, it's mad. It's mad when you put it into perspective. You know, I used to go and watch just to help me mentally. Because like I said, rugby was my whole identity. And I felt very lost without it. So I started drinking heavily up in uni. I was going to join the rugby society in the rugby league, but luckily they told me that there was no point joining because obviously I was in a cast and there wasn't no guarantee. So it was pointless me joining the rugby society because they like their people in the society to actually play rugby. And this is where I was lost and I turned heavily to the drink. I used to spend my whole days in uni because obviously I was in a lot of pain, so I wasn't sleeping much. I used to spend my whole days in uni basically going in the kitchen, starting drinking about, 10 o'clock, because that'd be the time I'd wake up. I'd start off on cans, so I'd be drinking crates of cans, playing chess against people, gambling people for pot noodles, because obviously I couldn't walk to the shop myself. So I was in cash just hopping around. People used to try and cook my food for me and stuff like that. And they did offer, don't get me wrong, to go to the shop for me and stuff like that. But yeah, I used to just sit drinking cans, or I would hop myself down to the student bar, which was, so you had my building here, and then student bar was literally like next door. So I'd hop downstairs, sit in student bar all day. And It's crazy to think that I drank a whole keg of San Miguel to myself during Freshers Week. There's a picture that I'll flash up on the screen. There's a picture that basically I used to be very proud of the amount that I was drinking. I used to be very proud, and I used to show off my bottles of drink as trophies, which is absolutely crazy to me. But yeah, and I think it's about 20 bottles of spirits and stuff I drank in during Freshers Week. And yeah, I used to just use the empty bottles as trophies. And it's crazy to think that I was doing this on my own. So during Freshers Week, I must have drunk over, gotta be about 300, 400 pints in 1 week, because I was literally waking up. And then while other people were going to their lectures, I didn't bother going to my lectures because obviously it was hassle going up and down, and the amount of pain, I knew I wasn't going to concentrate. So I used to wake up, start drinking, have some toast or whatever, beans on toast for breakfast with a few cans. And then when people would finish their lectures and we'd start pre-drinking, I would then go on to the spirits. The spirits would be then my pre-drink. So I used to pre-drink pre-drinks. And then to settle the stomach a bit, after I drank like 1 or 2 bottles of spirits, I'd go back on the cans so that when I'm in my wheelchair and being pushed or to town, I had the opportunity to, still be drinking. And then when I got to, the club in Cheltenham, up in Moo Moo's, I was a party rep. So I used to get queue jump. Everyone used to know me. And I used to get a free bottle of Prosecco. And then also used to get all sorts of free drinks from people who just knew me. And then I'd come home, go to bed, and then I'd wake up in the morning. So, and repeat. And that was my life. Playing chess, gambling for pot noodles. And that's why I've got a chess theme tattoo, is because this is a reminder of that period of time for me. I've also got a bottle of Jack Daniels, because obviously I was an alcoholic. And yeah, the chess tattoo, it just reminds me of that period. It reminds me of other memories with playing chess. Like, chess is a very big part of my life. And I think if I wasn't keeping my brain active with the chess, I think it would have been a lot worse for myself. Like, don't get me wrong, I was in a very bad place. I had many attempts up in uni, because it's the busiest place, but the loneliest place at the same time. When I used to get to like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and everyone would have gone to bed, I was just sat in the kitchen on my own, and I used to play the knife game. I used to be, the game where you have the knife and you're going in between your fingers. I used to sit there for hours just playing that game, drinking more. And this is like a really low point for me, and I know that it can be quite sensitive, and yeah, it has probably affected me in a lot of ways, like it probably has done permanent damage to me. But the whole reason I derailed so much is because my whole identity was rugby. My whole life was based around rugby, and I lost who I was because I didn't look at the other aspects that you gain from playing a team sport. That injury changed my life. It put me on a spiral that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And that's because it was one of the only things I was good at. Rugby union, rugby league. It was one of the only things I was good at, was being one of the players that don't get the glory. I was the type of player who you'd want on your team because I'd be the first in the ruck. I'd be the one in the tackle. I didn't mind getting dirty. I didn't mind getting physical. I wasn't the one who used to score the tries, but I was the one who was a team player. I was the one who used to rip the ball and offload it, and everyone else used to have the glory. Loads of people have said to me that they were grateful to have me on the team. At the time, obviously I thought I could be better. I didn't really talk much about me. But when I look back at my achievements from rugby, when I look back at the type of quality of players that I was playing with, who still got respect for me today, who, whenever they see me, they still go out their way to speak to me, or they'll still bring up the time when we used to play together, and they used to tell me about the type of person I am on the pitch. And they used to hate it when I used to volunteer to go and play for the other team if the other team was short, because they knew that I wasn't just going to be one of these who's going to miss tackles on purpose. They knew I was going to put in the shift, regardless if I was playing against my mates or playing with them. And it was soul destroying. It really did destroy my soul. And that's because I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I couldn't go to the rugby because every time I was watching the rugby, it was making me feel even more sad and worthless. So that kind of brings me on to the next point, where because I based my whole life around rugby and I had nothing else going for me, when I lost it, I lost every part of me. So since becoming sober and making the decision to change my life, I hardly ever step into a rugby environment anymore. I hardly ever watch rugby. And I think it's because I know deep down it is what I want. It is what I want. I would do anything for one last game of rugby. But I just know that I would be sacrificing so much more if I ever did it. So I just avoid those situations. And don't get me wrong, I'm still friends with the people I've met through rugby. And when I talk to them, I do get excited. And when people talk to me about my rugby and when I look through my old scrapbooks, I do get very excited. I do get this sense of, damn, maybe you'll return one day. But this time, going through this operation, going through this experience, I don't just identify as rugby anymore. I am such a broader person, and I am now a medium. I am now a kickboxer. I am now a good person. I am now a leader. I am all these amazing things. And if I lose one aspect of my life, I will still be able to function. I will still be able to find my soul, my passion, because I haven't put all my eggs in one basket. And the way that I've done this is by realizing that you can take rugby, for instance. Yes, it could be your whole identity, but look deeper into the skills that you're learning. So rather than just saying you are a rugby player, you are a team player. You are a leader. You are a social being. You are a coordinated person. And you can really pinpoint the skills. And once you start looking at it as a broader thing, rather than just saying, I am a rugby player, and saying you're an athlete, you're active, you're capable, you are a leader, all these different things, rather than just pinpointing one, it opens up your mind to such a broader experience to life. Rather than putting all of your eggs in one basket where you put all your focus into one thing. Yes, that is very good because obviously you're going to excel a lot quicker. But it's also a negative because it's allowing yourself to feel restricted and categorized only to that thing. This is why you need to make your whole personality something else. It's like when people, they make their whole personality the gym. They don't have a laugh. They don't have a joke. They don't take anything unless it's to talk about the gym. This is why we need to learn how to make ourselves wider in the sense of eggs in more baskets, fingers in more pies. So you're a more versatile kind of person. And this is why I think during this operation, this next healing phase that I'm going to be going through, I think I'm going to be in a better state of mind. Yes, I'm probably going to have a lot more down days because I am an active person. I am a walker. I am someone who likes to be moving. I don't like to be sat down for long periods of time. As many of you who watch my TikTok lives and stuff like that, I'm a very animated person. I'm very up, dancing, jumping, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to have to find other ways to stay active. Obviously, it's only my foot, so maybe I can move my arms. So this is what I'm going to be doing going forward with my new operation. I'm going to be taking it with a new mindset. So my mindset is I'm going to actually focus on the recovery. Because normally when I got injured, I never used to focus on the recovery. I used to rush back because I needed to. Because like I said, it was my identity. So I can remember when I was 13 or 14 years old, I tore 8 ligaments in my neck. I got airlifted and I should have been paralyzed. They said if it was a little bit further down, I would have been paralyzed. And I can remember this memory very vividly. The doctor told me no rugby for 6 months. I said, oh, no, it'll be fine. No rugby for 6 months, otherwise you're going to do more damage. I was like, doctor, don't know what he's talking about. I went back to rugby 6 weeks after my injury, and I did more damage. Now I've got permanent damage in my neck, where if too much pressure goes on my neck, I start having like spasms on the floor, and yeah, there's a constant clicking in my neck. Every time I move my head, there's a constant clicking. And this is something that I've just had to learn how to deal with. I've just had to learn how to deal with pain because I haven't looked after my body. I haven't treated the recovery or the advice properly. Like, I never used to take physio serious because it'd be doing the same thing over and over and I wouldn't be seeing any difference. But the reason I wasn't seeing no differences is because I only did it for like 2 days, 3 days, rather than the full weeks, 2 months that they suggested. So this time going forward with the operation, I'm going to be keeping my mind busy. I'm sober now, so I'm not going to fall back into the trap of drinking. So I'm going to have to find other ways to express my feelings to numb the pain. I don't believe in painkillers. I do believe that, you can train your mind to dull the pain, or you can have like home remedies rather than painkillers. But if I need the painkillers, I'm going to chuck my pride to the side and actually take the painkillers if needed. I'm going to be looking at it differently and I'm going to be analysing my body. And it's one of these things where I don't think we do it enough. I don't think we analyse when we've had these dramatic, traumatic experiences happen to us. Operations are traumatic. Operations are dramatic. There is a chance that an operation can go wrong. You hold on to so much emotional damage from operations and traumatic experience. So I'm going to be releasing all this. I'm going to be looking at it as a positive rather than how I used to look at it as a negative. I'm looking at the fact that I've had this operation to improve myself. The doctor's saying that this operation, it should strengthen my ankles. There is a 60% chance that it might not do nothing. But they've said that it is a very straightforward operation and it should go very well. Okay? So I'm going to have stronger ankles from it. I'm going to be more mobile from it. And I think I just need to work on my diet, because normally when I'm getting stressed and when I'm just sat around doing nothing, I just snack. I've already put on a bit of weight because I've been stressed and whatnot, and I've snacked like crazy. And obviously I got injured recently. I busted my knee, so I haven't been able to run. So I think it's important that I don't snack. So I am going to be looking at changing my diet while I'm recovering. I'm also going to be using my time a lot wiser. So I want to be focusing on the TikTok, on the grind. I can use this as an opportunity where there's not going to be much going on. I haven't got many places to be, so I might as well put more work into the things I'm passionate about. So I'm going to use the time to write some more courses because I really want to be able to teach people more. So I'm going to be writing courses about meeting your spirit guides, about different clears, how to enhance your clears with mediumship. I might look into how to do a positivity course, how to be more positive, because there's things that you can implement to help you with the positivity. There's things that's going to help you improve your mind, your body and spirit. And I feel like I could teach you. I feel like I could gain the knowledge. I'm also going to use this time to read more on knowledge and stuff like that. I'm going to use this time effectively. And I think that's the main difference here, is rather than letting the injury define me, letting the injury cause me to crumble, cause me to feel that my life is over because I've lost my identity, I am now identifying as something else. So I'm going to be working on myself while I am out of action, slowing down a little bit, taking time for myself. journaling, staying on top of the journaling, but also making sure I'm showing up for other people. And this is going to be the difference. This is going to be the make or break. So I want to ask you, what is your identity? What do you identify as? And I'm not talking about like gender and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about your personality, your core values. Who are you? And this is the question that you should be asking yourself. Are you only one thing? Or are you a wide variety of things? So if you ended up having to stop doing something you loved that you identified as, have you got something to fall back on? Or are you going to end up in the same situation I was, where you're going to lose yourself, you're going to lose your soul, lose your purpose, lose your direction in life? Because this is what happens all the time. And I think this is the core reason why a lot of people fall into a rut, fall into depression, fall into this mindset that they're not worthy, is because they identify as one thing. They identify as one thing. And when you really put that into perspective, it's quite scary. It's quite scary how many people fall into the trap of identifying as one thing. I use the example. Gym bros, they tend to identify as a gym bro. Their whole life revolves around the gym. Runners, their whole life revolves around running. People who do crochet and that's their only thing they do. People who only read books but don't apply it. So ask yourself, who are you? When you introduce yourself to someone and they was like, oh, tell us a bit about yourself, do you just go to the basics and say, my name's this, I'm this age, I'm from here, I play rugby? Or do you go deeper? Who are you? I'm Gethin. I'm a TikTok influencer. I'm also a Muay Thai fighter. I'm also a psychic medium. I'm also a confident person. I'm also a teacher. I'm also a leader. I'm also capable of doing amazing things because that's who I am. I'm an adventurer. Notice how it's the same question, but the answer you give is completely different. And one is more in depth. And if, say, for instance, I wasn't able to do the mediumship stuff. So like at the moment, I'm not able to do the kickboxing, but I still say I'm a kickboxer because it wasn't my full identity, but I've taken the skills from it. And this is where I think it's important that you analyze yourself. You ask yourself, who are you? What is your identity? What makes you unique and special? And like I said, I used to think the only thing that used to make me worthy of anything was the fact that I played rugby. And when that got taken away from me, my whole world came crumbling down. And I am lucky to be here. Like I said, I had over 30 attempts. Obviously not in that period. Some of the attempts was before I became an alcoholic and stuff like that. But during that period, they heightened a lot because I was very alone in my own thoughts. And like I said, uni probably didn't help either because it was a new environment and it's the busiest place but the loneliest place at the same time, especially them first couple of weeks, because obviously you're learning all these new people, you're meeting all these new people, you don't actually know who's your true friends. So that's a little bit about my identity, a little bit about like the operation coming up and how it's going to be different this time. Because no one really talks about the impact injuries have on sports people or people who identify as one thing. No one really talks about it. And this is what I want to start spreading awareness is I'm grateful the injury happened, because if that injury never happened, I wouldn't be on the path I am now. So if that injury never happened, I never would have become an alcoholic. I never would have gone to the spiritual church because I would never have dropped out of uni. And if I had never dropped out of uni, never would have gone to the spiritual church, never would have started becoming a medium, I never would have started kickboxing, and I never would have gone to Thailand, and I never would have met all these amazing people, and I probably wouldn't have come onto TikTok. I probably wouldn't have started taking TikTok serious if I hadn't gone through that period, because the reason I started my TikTok account, I can remember in 2018, 2019, I was one of the first people on TikTok uploading. Just the content I was uploading just didn't align with who I am now. I used to upload like mustard drinking videos and drinking full bottles of soy sauce and biscuit challenges and all this weird stuff is the best way of putting it, which don't align with me anymore. But it's just the fact that I couldn't do anything else. I was just sat there. So there's a very good chance if I didn't become the alcoholic I was, if I didn't go to uni with a cast on my foot, who's to say I wouldn't be sat here now on TikTok? I wouldn't be here being a medium. I wouldn't be doing what I loved. And this is the beautiful thing, is sometimes the darkest times create the most amazing opportunities. We just can't see it. Sometimes we get very deep tunnel vision. Sometimes we think that, oh my God, it's the end of the world because this has happened. But in reality, it's the start of something new, start of something amazing. And at the time of every single attempt, I didn't think there was any chance of any change. I thought this was going to be my life for the rest of my life. And the mad thing is, as soon as I let go of my ego, as soon as I let go and just started trusting that things was going to get better, I started trusting in the universe's plan and just going with that flow, that natural instinct that if I keep living the life the same and don't change anything, this will be my outcome. This will be my life. And one of my attempts will be successful. And once you've failed so many times at something that it shouldn't take that many, you feel even worse because you can't even do that right. But I am so glad that the bench came back underneath my feet with no explanation. I am so glad that my roommate came in during a few of the attempts and checked up on me constantly. I am so grateful for the people who saved my life. I'm so grateful for the fact that I used to use worn out belts and stuff like that, and they snapped. I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful, and I can't put it into words how grateful I am. I'm very grateful for all the experience, for all the struggles. I am grateful, and that takes a lot of healing to be able to say that you are grateful for the traumatic events that happened to you. Yes, I'm still healing every single day, but I can wear it on my sleeve. I can wear it on my chest, that I can use my story now to help other people. And like I said, at the time, it was the worst time of my life. I never thought change was going to be possible, but it has been possible, and it's proved it time and time and time again. And I've created a whole new sense of identity. I'm a whole new person. I'm not angry anymore. I used to be one of the angriest people you'll ever meet, and that used to be my identity. I used to be a nasty person because I was just reflecting what's on the inside. Whereas now, I am one of the most caring people. I have so much love and time for people, so much patience for people. Because I understand sometimes people say things out of anger, out of hurt, out of trauma in themselves, and they reflect it onto other people. I understand this. But I also understand that sometimes you can't heal everyone, and they gotta find it out on their own. Sometimes you can only just be the messenger. Sometimes you can only be the one to inspire them. But they've got to be the one to do the work on their own. And this is what I had to do. And I wish I had someone like me who was very open about their experience, very honest and raw, rather than just saying like, oh yeah, it does get better. But like, they haven't lived it. They haven't gone through it. It's just people who, they don't know what else to say. Whereas I know it gets better, but I also know that it don't get better unless you put in the work. No one else is going to do the work for you. And I want to help as many people as I can. I want to do the work for them. Because like sometimes you just want to give someone a good shake because you can see that they've got huge potential, but they don't see it in themselves. And That's the truth with it. You can lead a camel to water, but you can't make it drink. You can give someone all the tools, but if they're not willing to use them, the project will never get done. And us as humans, we are a project. Our whole lives, we're creating something. And a lot of the time, you look at people and they don't care about themselves. They don't care about what happens to them. And the sad truth is, they care more about other people's problems because it's easier than dealing with their own. They want to help other people with their project rather than working on themselves. But how can you help other people unless you're improving your skills? You're improving your project. You can help people more rather than trying to talk to them directly, but leading by example. And yeah, obviously, I preach about positivity all the time. I'm a very positive person, and that's my strong point. Where I lack is body. You know, like I haven't got a very good body. I'm not very disciplined in that sense. I'm a very comfortable person. As long as I'm happy, how I feel, that's all that matters. But I should start focusing on my health, especially because of all the injuries and stuff. So in the new year, after my operation, the recovery is going to be so important for me because this is something I do want to start inspiring other people with. I've lost a lot of weight. Yes, I've gone from 129 kg down to like 93, 92. Yes, I have done that. That is inspiring to some people. But what would be more inspiring is if I increase my mobility, if I increase my flexibility, if I increased just my general health, rather than munching on bad food all the time, actually taking time and inspiring people with my health. Because at the moment, I'm only inspiring people mentally and spiritually. Whereas I need to start inspiring people with the physical. And that's my mission. Like, obviously, some of you might be saying, like, oh yeah, you're already doing enough. You're already inspiring enough. That's to you. But I've had it a few times where I feel like I should be inspiring people more. I'm hard on myself because I want to be inspiring people more because I don't want anyone to have to struggle how I struggled. I want people to be able to have access to the tools or to see that it is possible. Because sometimes when you talk to a therapist or you talk to some people, you just think they're telling you what they want you to hear. They're not living proof of what is possible. And the truth is, you're all possible. You're all worthy of amazing things. But a lot of us let our own minds eat away at us. Let our own minds stop us from achieving the things that we want to achieve. They stop us from making progress. And I'm going to tell you all straight now, right? And some of you might not like to hear this. We need to start holding accountability for our actions rather than blaming others. It's not your parents' fault. Yes, they had a part to deal with it if you're dealing with trauma or traumatic things. It's not your friend's fault. It's not the place you work. You've got to hold accountability that you control your life. You control your actions. And as soon as we get out of this victim mentality, as soon as we start getting out of this blame mentality, and we start holding accountability for the things that we can control, the things we can change, because shitty things are going to happen to you regardless, because you can't control every aspect of your life. But what we can control is how we respond, how we allow it to affect us. If someone cuts you up when you're driving and you decide to react with road rage, that's on you. Yes, they cut you up, but that's on you. And one of my favorite stories and quotes is a man's in a coffee shop and he orders a black coffee. He's walking and someone bumps into him and spills his black coffee all over him. The man is furious. He's like, "You've spilt my coffee." The other man responded, "You've only spilled coffee because you had coffee in your cup." And this basically means that if he had any other substance in his cup, he would have spilt that. So if he had water, he would have spilt water. But because he had coffee, That's why he spilled it. So if we return this into human emotions, so if you're carrying anger, and then when someone reacts to you, you're going to spill anger out onto them. Whereas if you can learn to forgive yourself for feeling these ways, for expressing these emotions, and turn that anger into happiness or kindness, you're going to reflect kindness onto people. So rather than screaming and shouting, oh, blah, 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 you just barged into me, you could turn around to them and say, oh, don't worry, it's no problem. It's no problem. They don't need to apologize if they don't want to, because you can't control what other people are going to say. But what you can control is how you respond and what you're carrying in your cup. And this is why we need to start owning accountability. Yes, like I said, there's some very shitty things, and there's some things that we're not going to be able to forget. We're not going to be able to forgive them for. But there is a way. There is a way. It's not forgiving them. It's forgiving yourself. Because you got to allow yourself to forgive yourself in order to move forward and find this better energy for yourself. And you got to learn that your past don't define you. Your past creates who you are, and you're always the person that you're meant to be in that stage of your life. There's no linear to how life is meant to be. And your past just creates your future you. Your present creates your future you. So that past version of yourself is who you needed to be in that moment. And you can create your own future. Another one of my favorite quotes that I got tattooed on me, literally by here. The past is in your head. The future is in your hands. And this is basically saying that when you start focusing too much on the past, where you start replaying, start blaming other people for why your life is shitty, why your life haven't worked out how you wanted it to. When you start blaming other people and not holding accountability that you had a choice. You had a choice in what you did. You had a choice how you reacted. And yes, I know there's circumstances that's worse than others. But you still have a choice. There's people out there who they got diagnosed with cancer, and yet they're fighting every single day. They got a positive mindset. They're very happy. There's also same people with the same illness who've given up on life. And this just puts into perspective. You have a choice. Regardless what the outcome is, you have a choice. You have a choice how you want to live, how you want to express yourself. And this brings us all back to the identity. How are you when you handle road rage? How are you when you're handling other people being nasty to you? Do you absorb it and do you let it affect you? Or do you just brush it off? And this is something you've got to really process. Are we living the reality of other people, letting other people live our lives for us, telling us what we have to do, how we have to feel? Or are we actually being true to ourselves and telling ourselves, hey, this is a shitty situation, but I can still be positive. Like this year's been one of the worst years of my life. All right? One of the worst years of my life. So much shit have gone on. But yet, I still got a positive attitude because I know that this is only a small storm. And eventually, when the storm passes, it's going to be sunshines and rainbows and I'm going to be laughing and joking. I just got to ride the waves, And if I start thinking negative and letting it get to me, then it's not only going to affect me, it's going to affect the other people around me. There's a very good chance that what I start thinking, I believe in, and then I get tunnel vision and I miss the opportunities. Whereas when you go forward with it with a positive mindset, an open mindset, the world is so much brighter. The opportunities are so much brighter. And when you are getting hate, when you are getting people who are doing things that you don't agree with or they don't line up with who you are, it's so much easier just to remove them from your life. It's so much easier to set boundaries for yourself when you got more respect for yourself, that you're carrying yourself with more positivity. Because there's a complete difference from being happy, positive, to being a pushover. And this is something a lot of people don't actually understand, is being a pushover is actually one of the most toxic things that people can do. So this is my plan. I know it is a bit of a long one, but this is the topics that you really need to sit down and think about is, who are you? What is your identity? What are you filling in your cup? And if you're struggling to find positives, go back to the basics. Be grateful for the fact that you're alive. You know, I was in a car crash not so long ago. It was a very traumatic experience. The car was a complete write-off. I'm grateful I wasn't harmed. I can replace a car. Yes, this caused a lot of inconvenience, like I'm relying on my mum to drive me around everywhere and all that. Yes, I haven't got a car. Yes, you know, I wasn't able to find the person who did it to me. They drove off. But I'm alive. I'm not hurt. I was a bit shook up, you know? I was devastated. But I'm alive. And it's led to some amazing things. You know, it's led to the fact that I've started riding the bike on the road. I never used to do that because I never had to do that. Whereas now I'm comfortable riding a bicycle on the road, you know? And it's one of those things that if I was never in that car accident, so that's one of the positives. So when you're in these dark times, if you can find one positive, that means you can find 10, right? Because once you break it down right to the basics, I'm still breathing. I'm still alive. Most of you, roof over your head. Yeah? You know, obviously there is some people who don't quite have a roof over your head. But look at the positives with that. You get to meet new people. Yes, not every one of them is going to be nice. But all it takes is meeting one person who could change your life. You know? Look how many people, if you are homeless, that you give £1 to and you think you've earned the world. Look at the positives in that sense. And yes, the world is full of doom and gloom. But if you start directing your life and finding the positives within other things, you naturally start to find the positives within yourself. And it works vice versa. You start finding the positives in yourself, you'll naturally start finding the positives in other things. I was watching a video last night about, it was something like 30 daily habits I've now implemented to make a happier life. And I think it was like habit number 16. And it was give a compliment you mean to people. And what they meant by this was, rather than just giving fake, empty compliments, giving one compliment a day to someone and actually mean it. And what you'll find is you'll start to naturally get happier and happier and start giving compliments and finding positives in other things, not just that person. Give it a go. Give it a go for 2 weeks. Give a compliment that you genuinely mean. And it could be to a stranger, friend, family member. Give a compliment that you genuinely mean. And it could start you on the path to finding more positives in your life. Could help you find a more positive identity. You could start identifying as a positive person rather than a negative Nelly. And identity and perspective go hand in hand, because when your perspective is from a good heart, a good place, a good mind, a positive outlook to life, your identity will start to shift. You'll start to feel more confident. You'll start to feel more outgoing. Whereas when you've got quite a negative mind, you tend to overthink, you tend to overanalyze, and then that can send you on a spiral with anxiety, depression. So just give it a go. I'm not saying it's going to cure your anxiety, your depression, but I do know for a fact it can definitely make you feel better inside and realign you with your soul. So that is today's episode. We covered identity, we covered quite a lot, and I know I went on a bit of a tangent and everything like that, but I feel like it was quite raw, quite personal, and I do think that there is lots that you can actually take from it. So just remember that you can re-listen to this podcast over and over until it sits in, that you create your identity, you create your world, and people are going to do shitty things throughout your whole life. But it's how you respond to them. It's how you react. It's what you fill your cup with. So just remember, I'm proud of you. I believe in you. I've been your host, Gethin Mayers, and this has been The Spiritual Crash. I'm proud of you, believe in you, and I'll see you all in the next episode.